taco in my teeth.
I know that's fun.
All right. We are here December 16th, 2024 for the Joint School District 171 School Board meeting. Carmen, could you roll call, please?
Yes. Trustee St. Germain.
Here.
Trustee Craig.
Here.
Trustee Daniels.
Here.
Trustee Kepke.
Here.
Trustee McIntosh.
Here. Awesome. Thank you for all being here tonight and present. Please rise and join me with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, all but serve. Okay, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Any discussion?
I'll second.
Sorry, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. Presentation of the consent agenda. We did, we just did. We did the. We just did the
agenda,
Oh, just
so
the
I
agenda?
think, yeah.
See, I'm reading ahead. Okay, so approval of the November 18th regular board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 21st work session and regular meeting minutes.
Wrong.
November.
Oh, I'm on, okay. November 18th meeting minutes then.
Thank you.
I'll
Get
second the
into that.
November 18th.
Any discussion? I'll just say I so enjoyed watching the PLC slides all over again. It's great. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, Carmen, motion carries. Now moving on to the consent agenda.
I will make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I did have a couple of questions which have been addressed around some of the overages that we're seeing. So thank you, Brittany, for responding to my questions. Any other comments, thoughts? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Reports and recognition, appreciations. We don't have any presentations tonight, do we, Carmen? Okay. No. I'd like to call out Harper Crow from Orofino Junior Senior High School. She has won the state competition for the holiday Christmas card. So that's super cool. Yes, very much. Yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to highlight? Okay, hearing none.
No, a couple more.
Okay, I thought you had some.
Yeah, I
You
got
always do.
I got to call out Cavendish.
Yeah.
They had their assembly and there were some pretty cool videos of the kids at their talent show. I guess it was talent show and Christmas program. And a couple kids did take me out to the ball game, and then they got the whole crowd involved. It's really a good video to start my day off with.
Yeah. I guess I did make note of one more. The high school basketball players at Timberline did a really good job getting their grades up to play. And I wanted to call that out. So it's an important piece.
I've really enjoyed reading the Thrive and Shines. Those are, there's a lot of them, but I thought I think that's pretty cool.
Okay, moving on to committee and building reports. Any questions for anybody on the building reports?
Just amazing how much stuff the guys got done in the last couple months.
That's program reports. So moving on to program reports. All right.
I'm jumping ahead.
Cody, I had a question about the state assessment that is underway. What does the state do with that review data?
You're referring to the general supervision cloud review.
Yes.
They give us individualized reports on what we've done well and what we've not done to their standards. And then as a state, they look at those files and all the reviews data, and then they center some of our special ed training around some of those areas.
Okay, so it's training, not funding, resource allocation driven. Okay, all right. I was wondering about that, whether they used any of that to inform need for additional resources, but training and education. Okay, thank you. Anything highlighting that you see rising to the surface in that process?
No, we're just in it. We
Yeah.
do it every year, and we've done quite well in the past, so it's we'll do quite well again this year.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah. Carmen, I was kind of curious thinking about the fresh fruit and vegetable program. I had to look that acronym up. What kind of waste do we have in that? I mean, pomegranate seeds? Were they a hit?
Well, I'm sure they were, probably not with the custodians or the teachers.
Do they have big straws that they fit in?
No. So the program is where you give them, there's no portion sizes, so kids can taste it or they can eat the whole bag themselves. So it's up to the teacher to manage that. So if one student don't want to eat it, somebody else can eat it. That can't leave the building, though. It has to be consumed on property. So if they don't eat it, they don't want it, goes in the garbage or it comes back to the kitchen. So it's up to the teacher to manage the waste. We do have to introduce them to different types of fresh fruits and vegetables. So some of them they're not gonna like, and some they're gonna love. They love berries, but those are very expensive and they're seasonal. So a lot of times we get a lot of the same things because of the seasons and where we live. So, you know, when they have to try rutabagas and turnips, it's not their favorite, but they've been introduced to something new.
I wonder if there's an opportunity to incorporate, thinking about Tammy Waite, a compost pile.
Well,
The compost
we have
bin?
waste. I don't see the waste, to be honest, because the custodial staff comes through, they've got their whole routine and they pick everything up, so I have no idea really on that program on what the waste is. At lunchtime, yeah, you'll see the waste. And I mean, that might be a possibility even where the lunch foods and stuff they don't eat could go to the compost.
I think there's certain things you can compost and certain
Certain
things
you
you
can't.
can't. Do you guys still have corrections? Do you still do the gardening? Yeah. I wonder if there's a collective opportunity there as far as composting and not so much, a little bit of waste reduction. And then I don't know if that amount of waste is used to inform what we deliver.
To the classrooms?
No, or to the classrooms or in general.
Yeah, we know exactly how many students is in each classroom and we send according to that. You know, if they've got like 10 blind 7 in a classroom versus, or, you know, elementary might have 27 in a classroom. So that determines the amount we order and what we send.
Just seemed like some of the things could be quite wasteful. So I was just wondering.
I know one time we tried mushrooms and almost every teacher emailed me and said, never again. I don't think one kid chewed and swallowed the whole thing. So, you know, we haven't tried those again.
Right on.
No, now that we're on program reports, so 4 to 6 weeks ago, I made it through all the schools, but I'd been reminded by Derek and Carmen that I hadn't been to their buildings yet. So I went to their buildings and the parking lot was tore up and there was no bathroom. So since then, the parking lot is all back together.
Yeah.
And Carmen has a bathroom. So really excited to see how much progress was made in, like I said, 6-8 weeks to those areas. And obviously Derek put it in his too, but it's not just about making it look better, but it's so much more efficient for working on buses and getting in and out. And I think everybody needs to go see what Carmen's got going down there, from the amount of food storage and the donations we're doing, not just for the school, but for the community. you talked about it a lot, but until I seen it, it was a very impressive. So
Yeah, nice bathroom.
don't have to run over the
Great,
school
yeah.
bus garage anymore.
And the that bus project was a Idaho Department of Water Resources flood mitigation grant program. So I want to call that out. The purpose of that was to reduce potential for flood risk. And yeah, it was a great partnership opportunity. I wanted to just note our business partners. So I know we have many, but Roy did call out Alpine Heating and Air, Pretty Man Electric, Twin Oaks Building, Phillips Plumbing, and Express Name Tags and more, specifically in his report as being supportive and giving us good prices so that we can continue to sustain programs. So it's good. Any other questions there? Okay, moving on to our discussion items. We have a,
Real quick.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about the kitchen audit. Carmen, good job. And then I was hoping Jason can talk a little bit about the grant that him and Russell had obtained.
Yeah, thank you. Carmen was the one person in particular that I called out for appreciation in my report. Carmen's the best person for those kind of reviews because she's very thorough, pays attention to detail. Sometimes I don't always like the answer she gives me, but we need her in that position, and she did a really nice job on the whole audit, and it took a tremendous effort. So I appreciate Carmen in that task. And then in my report, Russell and I just got notified, I think over the weekend, wasn't it, Russell?
Friday.
Was it Friday? We got an email from the IDA, Idaho Ed Tech Association, that we were awarded a small grant for technology. And basically it's a bunch of podcasting equipment so that we can communicate more effectively. And our vision really is to use it as a district to do that, but to get some students excited about it. And that's when we talked about it and planned it, we really got excited thinking about the possibilities. If we can get students in each building, excited about video production. We have that happening. You see it in different capacities, Timberline announcements, Orofino's had some video competitions, things like that. But this equipment could be really cool. And some of the tools that are available now, it's just, you can do it fast and fairly easily. And, it's just pretty exciting. So
Nice.
we're excited to get that off the ground, and all that stuff's mobile. So, we can
so we'll have
take it to
one,
school. And,
we'll have one set up and it will travel.
yeah, and less of we think it's going to morph over time into something else, but for now it's mostly mobile, and you could interview mobile, or we could set up a, what's the words I'm looking for, but like a
booth?
studio,
A
yeah,
booth?
like a studio, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was exciting.
Oh, very cool.
They put on the conference every year. We usually send some teachers too, and that's where Russell got his award last year. He's been a board member for him in the past, so it's nice we have a pretty good partnership there. I also linked the board training Get on Board webinar series. So if anybody wants to do any of those webinars, those qualify for reimbursement. So you can look through those and see if there's a topic of particular interest. We can do it individually.
Oh, I didn't know they qualified. That's good.
And then Taylor's had an idea when we were talking about Thrive and Shine about doing a token emphasizing our values when we do Thrive and Shine. So those stickers on there are examples of what Taylor and I talked about. And for simplicity and ease for myself, I just went with stickers, so I can quickly, make these stickers. But what I'm trying to do is really emphasize the values that we care about. So when somebody's recognized, I make sure to highlight, a value. And then I've been sharing that, you saw in my updates as well. But the community, almost all of the community ones have centered around love for students, kindness, a lot of how our staff treat their children. They've greatly appreciated that. And then some for, like how individualized teachers are, caring for the individual needs of students, et cetera. And then a lot of our internal recognitions have come for surrounded people that do more than the minimum, are willing to take on projects, et cetera. So these are some examples of the ones that have been recognized so far, but I've been really appreciative of everybody who's submitted. I've had them from all kinds of community members. They get a choice if they want to be anonymous or recognized for their nomination. And it's been some of both. So it's been really cool. That was in the newspaper, you probably saw. And then they interviewed me on the radio about it recently too. I don't know if that's aired or not, but they hopefully cleaned it up a little bit. So stumbling in the conversation.
Your radio voice needs a
Um,
little work.
Yeah, it was a phone call. So
Oh,
you don't know how live, it's kind of awkward. But
it's very live. I've been the subject of those for years now with the ski hill. I am glad, speaking of how responsive the community, both in and out, our stakeholders across the board have been to that Thrive and Shine program. It's really impressive. And the stickers, so are they literally, you have a sticker sheet and you're printing them off and
yeah, you probably see on Facebook, but so I start by making a publication and I send that to, first I email it to the individual and then BCC everyone, so our inboxes don't fill up when everybody replies all. So they get that recognition. And then I also include one of these, just a graphic in that email to them so they can see what, some of them might use that as part of their signature or something, might be proud of it. And then, yes, literally, I eventually give them a sticker. I'm a little behind on the stickers. I got a few to do. And there's probably 15 or 20 nominations just waiting, so I don't want to do them all at once to where, people don't feel appreciated, if it's hidden in the middle of 10 of them. And then I try to mix it up between buildings and departments. But that's another thing to celebrate. We've had recognitions for every
everybody.
department, I think, and every building. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really want everyone to feel that, and I want our community to hear, the point of it is to keep sharing the good stories. Like, it's easy to find the negative stories. So we really want to share some of the positive things that are happening.
Yeah.
So
It's really taken off. I think it's great. I think it'd be great in sort of 2.0 to even sort of narrow a focus into some of the goals or areas of influence that we're interested in to celebrate and kind of target that.
I agree. I've talked to the principals about that a little bit, to start aligning like, okay, now, it's been a kind of a free for all. Everybody's submitted different things, but now I want to start getting some that are, narrower focus on what we're trying to achieve. So.
Yeah, the group hug is great, but let's start throwing some arrows of hearts. That'd be good. Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay. All right, moving on to discussion items. We have the Idaho Youth Challenge Academy early graduation requests.
I asked Principal Hill to give us an overview of where they're at. So that's on the front page of that handout that I gave you. He says that all of these cadets have met the requirements. So that's our graduation requirements, which are aligned with the state. They've completed their senior project and done a presentation. And then on the back, he's listed all of their names, which 23, that's pretty amazing that we're going to have 23 cadets that receive JSD 171 diplomas.
Out of 127 in the
Yeah.
class. Is Jim online by chance?
Good to see him.
And then he's also listed their future plans there.
So I learned early on in my trustee position that if they've met the requirements of graduation, then we congratulate them and accept these requests going forward. It's been interesting in the past to have them present and be a little bit more personal around this, but this is good.
Similar trends though. We got some military, got some community college, couple going right to work, landscaping, a barber.
Yeah.
I see the lineman school, so I assume Avista got a hold of them at the job training workshops. They do a great job of workforce readiness meetings. They do in each of this, twice during each session, right? They do the interviews.
Mock interviews.
Mock interviews, thank you. Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
That's a big
concerns?
part, that's a big program emphasis for IDYCA is either, high school diploma or GED. Or they're going back to a school to finish. So this is pretty. I couldn't speak to a long time history, but it's more than I remember.
Okay, our beloved policy tracker. Which we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. This is great
Yes.
stuff.
Be much easier.
So
Okay,
December
so
2nd reads.
December 2nd read. So go to
And I'm
that.
getting smarter about this table. If it's changed or is
Well, I
he
did-
getting smarter?
I did make an adjustment and I didn't have to call Russell this time. So that's
Mm,
maybe I'm making progress there too.
I like it.
So so really, if you go down to the only one we're only talking
So-
about 58, row 58, ISB
Okay,
3265.
that's what I thought, because we agreed to table.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought
we-
about striking through.
Do we
the
need to
rest, but
formally table 3297?
no,
Okay,
no, we either adopt or not.
okay.
And I'm sure we're gonna have once those laws, once the court make their final rulings, I'm sure the courts make their final rulings. I'm sure we'll get some more direction from ISBA.
And what do we think? We have a electronic communication device. We had some comment and discussion last time.
We've went through this with administration and we have modified this policy, which is it's better written than ours was. Ours read more like a procedure,
Mhm.
and we've included all the necessary components that our procedures had, as well as left the format of this policy. So with these modifications, selecting, like in yellow, selecting the ones that apply in each of these sections, it aligns well with the current practice. It also will qualify, or the governor has released a little grant up to $5,000 per district for adhering to a policy like this. And this policy will align with that grant
Do
application.
we get 7,500 because we already had one?
Nope.
Nice being ahead of everybody else for a change. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you parents had some concern. Are you good with this version?
Yeah, I like this version much better than our existing one. It's much clearer.
Yeah, I'm good.
Jesse?
No, I'm good with the change.
And there was nothing on the policy committee. They liked this version better, Jason.
Well, we went through and
Yes.
combined the version to come up with this. And yes, there have been no changes to this since we met on it.
Brian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I like it as well. Anytime we can keep them away from their phones during class time, I'm pretty happy.
The 2420, Cody, you're supportive of this?
Yeah, that's at Title I.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Family engagement?
And that one is, you can see in the notes, that's just a review. We just have to review it, and then on the policy, I just update to say that we reviewed it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have any questions and it looked like it came right out of our
Yeah.
existing
Pretty
policy.
straightforward.
So
And-
are we adopting the one that's, sorry, back to the other one. Are we adopting the one that's all with the strike throughs or the other one that's the copy?
Column B.
Yeah,
Column B. Okay, that's what I
yeah,
thought. I just wanted to make sure.
3265.
Yeah.
And then once we adopt it, then I just clean all that out of there.
Okay. Yeah.
And in the relative near future, we're gonna have a policy manual that's all in PDF, searchable PDF. I've got a lot of it done. Mindy's been working on a big piece of it. I don't want to say it out loud, but I'm hoping maybe over Christmas break, I can have it all done. And then one document, search for what you're looking for, and. So
Great.
that'll make it much nicer than our current. practice.
If the weather cooperates, we'll all be doing a lot of productive things over Christmas break. Okay, and then,
Okay,
so then we have to close this.
yep, close
right?
that one. Back to the top.
I figured it out last night. December 1st read. And then we have a December 3rd read. And this is all around facility use?
Yes, and the first two, 4210 is the policy, 4210P are the procedures around that policy.
Mhm.
Brittany led a discussion with our leadership team. We went through those policies. We thought we were going to need changes, but we just a conversation around the policy cleared up discrepancy. So we really don't need changes in those two. It's good for your information to know them. But we did make changes to the forms associated with them, and they're important changes because they have fees involved.
Mhm. I noticed the rate structure changed
Mhm.
kind of significantly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we tried to simplify and clean it up. And then basically, we can kind of go through the forms and look at the differences, but we want to make sure that if it's student group related, we mostly do not charge unless it is going to cost us somehow. Like if we require custodial services is typically the difference. So that there's charges for that. And in the past, we had set fees,
Mhm.
and those fees were hourly rates, and they were less than what we pay our employees. And sometimes our employees end up being on overtime, so there's a significant cost to those activities.
So one of the questions that I had, having been someone who has used the facilities, it, when does the user know what the fee is going to be?
And this, let's see, let me find
I didn't
the,
see that communication
look on
piece.
F3,
Mhm.
the one on the right.
Yeah.
On B. This is the most cleaned up form.
I have to
This
look
was
at
my
it.
last revision of this after Carmen gave me some input. So in the for office use only, this is where we would record some of that information. So they need to know the assigned staff wage. Sometimes they're requesting a
Right.
particular person, and so that's where we would put that. If there's, you can see all those things, but if we're going to require insurance or not, if
Mhm.
there's a fee for the building.
So as a community user, I would work with the administrator of the building and say, I want to use this facility for this. I need this staff member. And then they would come back with a cost proposal that
Right.
would be accepted or, oh, no, I need to find something else.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering about that process.
And there's been some variance in it. We really want to get cleaned up and be on the same page. There will still be some variance, depending on who's available to help with this or that, or what organization, the time, sometimes it's just the timing of the event that we can accommodate pretty easily, a lot of times we don't have to for funerals, we can just or memorial services, we can just find volunteers to help, a lot of times it's the principal and custodian or whoever.
Depending on how loved the person was in the community. Yeah.
So, we definitely try to work with people and make it work. The goal is, we definitely don't make any money on these type of things, but the goal is to have a policy that allows for, the community to use a taxpayer provided facility and make it work. And I think this is a much cleaner version of it.
Yeah, that was the only question I had, was about that. Having been the person on the other side of the
Mhm. And we have some
counter
different,
asking.
yeah, hopefully provide some clarity. We have some different forms and once we approve these forms, then we'll collect all the old ones, change the website, and there'll be one.
And you
We'd
said
be on
that
the same
there's
page.
not usually a fee associated if it's like a student. Does it say that on there somewhere, or is that just up to the
I think it's in
building
the policy.
to just decide?
Yeah, it basically I'd have to look to find where it says that, but if it benefits our students, we typically do not.
Yeah, it's.
And that's like the discretion of the building administrator.
Yeah, we try not to get too far out on that, but if it's
It's in P1 or the P 4210P.
thank you.
Yeah.
This first reading.
No,
This one.
oh yes, this is first read. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then we have the third read.
Ready to go to that? Or decide whether we want to talk about that third read?
I was in going to the third read.
I put this, let me get back to it. I put this third read on here. We can we read this twice. And they had different, we had differing ideas and different opinions about it.
Mhm.
But the policy that's in column B. Now I'm gonna need education on this real quick, just a second.
The second read.
Third read.
I don't think it's policies linked. It doesn't.
It's not linked to it.
You should have called her.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So this is the homeschool
Wait,
one, the
wait a-
2650.
Yeah, it's 2650.
We've gone back and forth on, and we received significant input around the potential difficulty that a severely outlined process would put forward. But we felt that our existing policy was a little bit loose without any sort of process. So did we kind of meet in the middle?
Nope. This 2650 in what cell is that? There we go. B10. Something is changing in here. Can you guys see 2650?
I can't see it
No.
anywhere on there.
Gonna have to change access to this.
Yeah, it's not attached in there, Jason.
It was in, when I last was in this morning, it was in B10.
Mhm.
So
Hang on. That is sick leave banks. What's linked?
I wonder if I can get back to it from revision history. Oh, for the sake of time, I'll just speak to it. So, and then I can send it. You guys can look at it again if you want. But the version that we had discussed in 2650 was the one that came from ISBA with our modifications. And that would provide us a policy where the principal reviews all those specific things. Do they have enough, evidence of completing a course, and would allow us to grant them credit if they met those things. And it would give us some framework to evaluate. And that was the one, if you recall, where we had to have a committee, principal, counselor, teacher in the subject area, et cetera. And then we would evaluate and determine if we were going to award credit or not. In the absence of that, we just have our policy 3000, which is has some vague references to the principal, just assigning credit or not. The admin team thought that the revised ISBA version would suit our needs. The parent input that we had at our last meeting was not that. That one parent wanted more flexibility in policy. But I think my recommendation is that we go with something that provides us some structure. The things in that policy is really what we would do anyway. It just required a kind of a committee review. And then at the end of that, there really was no appeal. It's like principal, they've had a committee, they did the meeting, and that was it. If they didn't award credit, there was no credit to be awarded. As you know, credits, we have to be very careful about awarding credit, and there needs to be some criteria in place. We definitely would not want to be just arbitrarily awarding credit. Obviously, we have our accreditation requirements, there's seat time, et cetera. So my recommendation is that we go with the revised ISBA version, or stay with what we have. But what we have is pretty vague.
And what we have right now is essentially the ISBA but it doesn't require the committee. They just kind of informally do all of the things it calls out. So they're already kind of doing those things. This just outlines
Yeah.
to the public view, these are the things that we've already been doing. Now you just know why it was awarded or not awarded because we went through X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Okay.
I think the concern that I heard was the requirement of demonstration of hour to hour. And what I've heard from a number of homeschooling folks now is that it's about mastery of skill. And so it's not necessarily an hour to hour. So is there a way that we can infuse flexibility on the hour and focus on the documentation of mastery?
In theory, yes, but it's rarely done. Even if you recall, we talked about West Ada being an example. I researched their policy. They'll award up to 6 credits based on these kind of things, same things, but their graduation requirements are 56. So in theory, you could come into a public school, review your materials and be awarded 6 elective credits. But you're still going to have to earn 50 in the school. Our graduation requirements are at the state minimum of 46. So our current policy, is easier to graduate, easier to earn a diploma with us than it would be in a situation like that.
Mhm.
My worry is that if we don't document, if we wanted to go to a mastery system, we would have to have a extremely comprehensive system to ensure that mastery had been met for any particular course that we might want to award credit for. If we waded into that without a thorough process, it would be so subjective. There would be no way to, we don't have assessments for, mostly they're elective credits, and so we don't have a mastery level assessment for.
So
Whatever.
maybe mastery is the wrong word. It's the word that I've heard from the homeschooling community, but we know that there's folks that do document, put a lot of, someone said, we have boxes and boxes, right? Because we have documented the process. And then there's others that are willy-nilly about it. So I know that we need to be very mindful and have a clear separation of that. For the folks that have the boxes and the boxes, if there is a test that shows that they have passed that class, is that a mechanism that we can use instead of hours? I'm just, and I know we have hours, butts and seats, and that's how we get our funding and all that, but I'm just trying to figure out how do we provide that opportunity for those that are documenting, the kids are doing the work, and they want to join our community.
Well, and I heard the other concern, I think, from the parent, which is kind of in line with that, which was it wasn't necessarily about the hours as much as it was the content delivered in those hours. And so whether they had paid for the curriculum or not paid for the curriculum, and whether that and how that curriculum played a role in that. And so how does that piece fit in? Does it have to be curriculum that they paid for it to count as those hours? Can they provide the materials that they used? And is that documentation? I mean,
That's kind of what
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking, is that if we have a parent, the willy-nilly, let's put them aside. So the parents that are documenting their students' learning experience, and they want to come in as a 10th grader, and we look at, and they have the material to look at, is that, and is it equitable? Does that test score in that class that's called biology, does that make the sense?
We really have
The
no
same?
way to know most of the time. So most of the time, we are not awarding credits unless they have documented accredited credits.
Mhm.
So it's very rare for us to say, here's 6 credits based on whatever. Unless in current practices, unless they do come in with a substantial documentation of completing a full course and they have good records, principal could award credit in elective credits towards their graduation requirements.
So could we modify that sentence about the hours, because that was the one that caused the most question or concern, with a level of documentation that would be adequate?
We absolutely could. It may be an accreditation issue for us, but it definitely would open a substantial can of worms for every other student. So
So we're not talking about, this is only elective credits that they would be given
you
for
c-
those scores.
that's what I would say. In theory, you could, assign credits, and you could assign other credits, also required credits. We don't, we're pretty
I'm
nervous about
comfortable
that.
with the elective.
No, I just was
I
clarifying,
think
yeah.
that it's just the level of documentation. I think that perhaps hours learning in a homeschool environment is not the right measure compared to the hours learning in the classroom. So what is that measure? That's the only thing that I ask that we think about.
I'd also say, how do we prove it? I mean, that's got to be.
Oh
a-
yeah, they have
side
to
of-
have, yeah, they have to have adequate documentation. And then do we need to define adequate documentation? I mean, there's the can of worms, right?
I was just going to say that. What does that mean? What is adequate documentation? The one we had last year, we obviously, there was some question. So, what does that look like, Jason? What is adequate?
That's the can of worms that I'm talking about. Our students are required to put in the seat time. They're required to have 90% attendance, pass the class with our standards. So it's pretty messy to evaluate, every other type of thing that's coming in. So what it looks like, I believe, is very different, which is why you really want a policy that's allows for some, but we don't want to open these doors wide open. We probably wouldn't be, I'm pretty confident in saying that we probably would be in jeopardy of not being accredited if we don't stick to, our accreditation standards. There is room for applying credit, and it's not just, I misspoke, it's not just elective credit. It could be any like course, it says. So
Mhm.
it could be biology or algebra 2, whatever. So it's a pretty slippery slope that I think, yes, we have extreme circumstances where we could award some credits when a student demonstrates that, but I think if we have a process that would help us, and we don't want to do it very often.
I think it makes it slippier when you consider that it's not just elective credits. I mean, if we're looking at just elective credits, it's like, okay, well, maybe we could be a little bit vague, but when we're talking about actual, courses that
Core
are
courses.
required, and then we're talking about equivalent for that, that makes it really, that opens it up even, I think, makes us even more at risk if we don't have a policy.
Well, I think we need a policy. It's just on this point around hours of learning versus having learned it is my question. That's,
I guess what would be the goal, that they have so many hours, or that they
that they
learn?
learn it. Yeah,
Because-
exactly.
Maybe at home, they could learn it in half the amount of hours without the distractions that.
Yeah, it's hard to prove that though.
Yeah.
And then you get kids that are in school that are gonna just say, oh, I'll just go. I don't
That-
show up to school now anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take the test.
It
Mhm.
contradicts
And
our
then it
attendance
flips-
policy.
Flips everything we've been working on with attendance. So
And then
this
like
one still needs
Jason
needs
said,
some
you have
love.
to have a test for everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we'd have to measure proficiency as well.
Looking at it, I don't-
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's where we've had that. There's no test out there that you could just
Mhm.
take to say you're proficient,
So,
from. classes.
Jason, the recommended update is ISBA.
Mhm.
They're current or are current.
We don't have one currently. We just have policy 3000, which alludes to it in placement.
For the administrator to decide, correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
That's a
there's
tough-
no appeal process, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, there was. You'll see, if you haven't found it already, I'm resending a link to that. The process is pretty cumbersome now, more cumbersome than it has been if we went with this policy. And so we did not want to add on you have a committee, go through the process with the experts, make a decision. We did not want to add on. If the parent doesn't agree with the decision, now it's going to come to the school
yeah.
board to re-review the, that committee's recommendation. So that's under the last two paragraphs at the bottom of that policy. In
And
those,
this is just for high school?
9-12, yes.
Okay.
That's when it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's just-
We've stayed with ISB policies, or unless it's something that just really frowned upon, you know what I mean?
And this is a new ISBA
Mhm.
policy,
Yeah.
which is why we don't currently have one. And because these discussions, with school choice becoming more and more of a hot topic across the state, this has become a larger.
Yeah.
My main point of emphasis would be we need to be able to support students in rare circumstances and have some flexibility to do that, but really stay close to our mission. And the further out we get from that, the less value we'll have in our credits and our courses.
So I know we work hard at attendance, but the concept of classroom hours in homeschool as would have been spent in a regular class in the district. I just think that's wrong.
That could be struck from that, but our students are currently held to that.
I understand
So
that.
that's the issue. If you want to strike that, number 2,
So
it could be struck from the policy.
if we remove the hours, we have documentation, the student followed a curriculum similar to what the credit is requested. The document of credit request, blah, 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 they require that student has satisfactorily passed in all courses. So that would, if we would support that, I think it would be better for us in the community that we have of homeschoolers and the potential for increasing engagement with them and bringing them in. And I'm willing to be wrong, but I just,
Striking number 2, is that what you're suggesting?
that's what I suggest, yes.
I hear what you're saying. I guess my only concern is proficiency. How do we know?
Well, because we require that a student is satisfactorily passed in all courses which a final exam normally is given, prepared and administered by the staff member in the district.
And so the parent would have to bring
Document
forth
that.
documentation
Yep.
that scores that proficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the standard of the state.
And that varies, just totally depends on the parent and the
Right.
curriculum. It might be a parent writing a note, or it might be full-blown, nationally normed assessment, depending on the subject.
Removing that though, does that open us up for our other students who have missed
Actually got a
so
good
much?
point with that.
Does that?
That's the part that scares me.
That's the part that worries me, is that although this policy is not directly addressing that, if you remove that, then you have a student who's at risk because they don't have the hours and they say, well, I've
They're not
done all these
proficient. Yeah.
all these other things. So why am I being treated differently than somebody else when I've done every other number on that list?
They're rarely, it could create the perception at least of an unfair situation. Those students are rarely proficient or doing,
That's a good point.
they are at times.
I would also say the student that's enrolled in the school is by far using more resources and budgeted dollars than the homeschooler, right? I guess as long as we can clarify, or we can agree on what that proficiency looks like, a note from the adult probably isn't going to be approved as proficiency. So do we need to drill that down, or can we drill that down? because Chris, I'm with you on the hours. I understand what you're saying. And I'm all for, parents homeschooling, but that the record keeping and the proficiency compliance is what concerns me the most. At least comparative to those students that are in the classroom. So the question, Jason, is how do we define the proficiency then? Or what's an acceptable, what's acceptable documentation to prove that?
In this policy, that committee will have to evaluate the documentation they bring,
Mhm.
and it'll be different each time, which this in our district is rare.
Right.
It's less than one per year
Yeah,
per
that's what I was
high
thinking.
school building. But it may become more of a thing, and especially if it's, more easily attainable.
And ultimately, it's that committee's decision, the recommendation.
Yeah, I think we
right?
can still
So-
function, I think we can hold our standards and still and strike through number 2, but it may lead to a discussion about, mastery.
What does
and if we're gonna-
satisfactorily passed mean? So do we, is there a way to assign, I don't know homeschool curricula, so is there a way to assign a grade level? Equivalent to what our grade level would be in that class to demonstrate?
We're just going to evaluate what they bring.
Okay.
There's no way for us to, create a document or be able to say exactly how we're going to evaluate that. We take what they bring, and if it's clearly satisfactory for completing a high school equivalent like course, we could issue a credit.
So our message is, we we're more than interested. We will work with you, but you must come with the documentation of your students' learning experience.
For sure. And we have done that in the past. We did it this year. And we've also denied in the past.
Instead of striking number 2 completely, could it be that the credit evaluation committee will review and make it kind of like it's not a checkbox that every single thing has to be met, but that these are the types of things that will be like selective. Yeah, that it's still there, because if somebody has that documentation of the same hours, maybe they want that. So maybe making it more of a,
Maybe not a good test taker, but they put the hours in.
right. So maybe we
You know.
can have all of these as options rather than every box must be checked, but the policy committee will review and
So-
consider the following.
So how's this? To document that the student, document the number of classroom hours the student has spent.
I would just change the word will to may. The rest of there may or may not be any way to do that.
Okay.
Just depends on what they provide us. You can put may there and that would work as Taylor suggested.
Okay.
I think that's why number 2 is in there, is because we have plenty of students that complete a course and don't master it, but pass it currently in our own schools, right? So I think that's why they're documenting seat time, as well as it's a credit requirement, the state. So if we put may, that would take care of it.
And do you think that your administrative team supports that?
It won't change our practice really.
Okay.
We're only going to approve really legit documentation. When a parent brings a student in that has obviously by their documentation, met the requirements of the course, we can award credit. If it's not thorough, we won't. We have to maintain the integrity of our programs.
Mm.
It's kind of a square peg and round hole scenario. The later they get into high school, the harder it is, so if they're considering, which is typically why homeschool students come in ninth grade.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But you guys can take a look at it, send me more thoughts if you want. We can do a 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, we're up there. This is a
Mhm.
tough one.
I think with the word, I think with the word may, the sentence structure needs to be changed on the actual bullets.
And the first sentence shouldn't be number one.
Right, the credit evaluation committee should not be a number one.
May document, may document, may document. You don't think that would work?
Well, I just think that, yeah, like that, how you just changed it.
But as far as the may, yeah.
And then the.
I think the committee is evaluating the hours that the student has. They're evaluating the documentation that the parents are providing, or the
Right.
home teacher is providing.
And then on number 4, where it's talking about a final exam prepared and administered by a staff member in the district, are you having them take a test then, or?
Yeah, if it is let's see, if it is a final exam normally is given, then they also have to pass that.
So if we have one.
So if they're, if it's biology,
Yeah.
and we have an end of course assessment that all biology students are taking, or a state exam, you could require that student.
Because
And
if you had an in-district student that did all the hours, but didn't get a passing grade, they don't get credit just
Right.
because they did the hours, right?
Right.
No.
Yes, that's the equalizer to me
Yeah,
for the class in which a final exam is normally given. So,
Maybe the
Uh,
credit evaluation committee may
evaluate,
consider the following.
I just think we need so the evaluation committee, what about considers documentation that the student has, I just hate the hour one.
May consider the
The
following.
following factors.
Yeah.
yeah.
May consider the following factors.
And again, it's that documentation of hours spent.
But if they're considering it, doesn't mean they have to go with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That does
And if somebody comes with us and they have, look, this is how we structured our learning. We learned from, 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock. And then we went outside and did hands-on science stuff or whatever, gardening, you helped me weed the garden. And then we came back in and we processed that food for that. That was part of that lesson in home economics. But again, I
think that's good, and then you leave it in there. And then it's up
yeah, I think.
it's up to the committee.
Yep.
I agree. I think the may consider
Mhm.
helps
Yep.
to solve that.
Then leave everything else alone. It's at the committee's discretion at that time. They're gonna consider it or not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I like that.
Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense? Are we there now? Finally?
Close. I'll just catch
Getting
up.
closer. We'll do a 4th read. Yeah.
I don't think we need to.
No, I don't think so either.
I think this is what we asked for.
Yep.
And I think it
Kind of meet
considers
in the
what
middle.
our, leadership team's recommending, but also considering the parent input as
Mhm.
well, trying to balance that. all.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we get our attendance up a bunch because of this.
Well, that'd be awesome, right? But yeah.
There was a lot of
right.
them out there. I did
Yes,
hear
there
that.
are. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ready to come back to
Um,
the school.
And then the sentence after that, so the credit from homeschools will be accepted only when a like course is offered in the district. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think really that was.
We have, when you include IDLA in our offerings.
We have a lot. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
For sure.
Pretty inclusive.
Okay. Well, thank you for that discussion, team. I think,
You can live with that.
we can move.
Okay.
on something like that, if I could get a motion. Oh,
Oh, not
we're
yet.
not action items.
We're gonna
Sorry.
change that next meeting.
Sorry.
We'll fix that in the future.
Yep.
Okay.
That was all of them, wasn't it?
Yep,
Yep.
that was it. Yeah.
Oh, you're, never mind.
We're-
Still in policy.
Yeah, we're at
We're-
board mission
I
now.
think we're wrapping up policy, right?
Yep.
Okay, so the next item is board mission development. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about is in relationship to our district, we learned about the professional learning communities last month. We have our vision, which is that we're going to create a generation that thrives. I really felt that we needed sort of a statement about what we do. And in a work session that we had earlier today, it was brought to our attention that really that lends itself well into establishment of sort of board protocols. So what we do, how we do it. And so we're going to pivot that work that was done around drafting a mission statement to more of a broader, how do we operate, what we do, and then use that in our future district strategic planning, where we all work together to come up with some goals and objectives that will drive the generation, drive creating the students that thrive and what that means. So I won't belabor that anymore, but we did some good ideation and had some great input from board members on that. So I appreciate that. Dates and locations,
Can I add something to that real quick?
please.
Stay tuned.
Where's that? Oh, that must be in the dates and yes.
Got it.
So it was, oh, there was another,
Phil shared
it
the
was in the,
1500B
yeah, I saw that.
board operating protocols and rules and procedures. I'll share that. Did you
Yep.
all get that already?
I have it.
Okay, I'll share that with everybody as
Okay.
well.
Right.
And then
So it was 1500.
B, yeah, it's in Bravo. Okay, I want to make sure that we didn't have.
The B may be,
Okay. Okay,
Well,
and I think that we look, I think I know.
That's what I was kind of struggling with, was why I was being,
why I couldn't find
Okay,
so we
yeah, B and
did,
P are kind of at different places on it.
we did adopt a procedure.
We did.
Recently, and we have that, and so that's published in our policy manual.
Nice.
So we should probably review that and then take a look at what Phil shared with us and re-revise.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
And as long as we don't get a huge SBA update, we're caught up now, basically, so.
I guess the spreadsheet I was looking for was the data for board report schedule. We kind of
Oh, the
blew
system.
by that one.
Say again.
The spreadsheet I was thinking that we were going to look at, not necessarily the where we're going to meet and when, but the data for board report schedule that
Oh.
I had some questions about and sent to Becca, so we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Different
That was not on the agenda.
Right, yep. It was in a report. So you had
Yes.
something to say about the board?
No,
meeting
I
and
think we got it
location?
between Phil and I.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, on our, yes, when we get, are we there?
we are.
Yeah. Board meeting dates and location.
So we just need to set our board meeting dates and locations. This is expiring.
Yep.
Find my agenda, these many tabs.
So Teresa, one of the comments that you had made was around meetings on the Hill
Yeah.
and spreading around. Are you comfortable with this?
I don't know. I don't know how many we have on the Hill, how many people on the Hill. I mean, I guess I was looking at it like we have 5 trustees, 2 on the Hill and 3 down below.
We have 3 meetings up here.
I think they just rotate between all the schools. Is that
And
what
then
it is?
when,
Academy.
and then when we have special meetings, they end up
Oh,
being in
Oh, 2 at the
Orofino.
Academy,
that's right.
May and
So-
August.
Is that?
So we got May, August,
I think there's 4.
There's,
yeah,
there's 4.
Timberline and Timberline.
That's 2.
IDYCA had requested, Jim had requested that we have this meeting and the other one at the early graduation dates at the academy.
Right.
So that was a request they had.
So that doesn't line up with the May and August then?
So how do we align that? That was, he wanted it in November, didn't he?
Well, it's in.
That's what I remember.
Yes,
And we
November or
said,
December.
oh, let's do it in December. So does this meeting align with their early graduation request?
Yeah, it's the November's better. This one would work also.
Isn't this one closer to the actual accomplishment of achievement?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know, it might. Since you requested November, I'm assuming they're wanting to have it taken care of, so the cadets obviously have to successfully complete their coursework or even though it's approved, they don't graduate, but I could find that out from him as to how,
So the time
critical
crunch
it is.
for them about our acceptance is that graduation is the 21st.
Yeah.
So next year will be the 20th or thereabouts.
We need to probably do it in November then.
But it's a piece of paper that gets a signature stamped on it, right?
Yep.
So I just don't.
It's just formality approval here. If it's this format, it's no big deal. If we're gonna see 23 of them one by one, it's gonna be a
A
bigger
bigger
deal.
deal.
And if we're at the academy, it's gonna be a big presentation. It's gonna be a bigger deal.
Mhm.
So he wants the December or the November meeting.
Yeah, that was what he'd asked for. Through the years, we've had, lots of discussion about board meeting locations and one location all the time, traveling like we do, how much travel, it's really up to the board. We can do it however you want to do it.
I like traveling. I like seeing the different
Yeah, same with me.
facilities. Yeah.
No,
Especially when we did the walkthroughs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like those.
Some
And-
districts have a central location and then they do board tours. Some do similar to what we're doing. It's really up to the board. What you guys think is most important.
yeah, I like going around all other places, but we have every place covered multiple times, so we could change one, no problem.
So is-
Need another one on the hill.
So the May early graduation request is tied together.
Yep.
So we just need to move the
If we-
August meeting. The
Or we
August,
just change the November because we already have Orofino Junior Senior High School twice. So that's
Oh.
the third time.
We have a number.
See what I mean?
mm-hmm.
If we just change that one location, I think we would accomplish what they're
So we
wanting.
move-
Give you one more meeting on the hill too, which is. That makes sense. So you would just change the.
So we move this one to here.
We don't move anything. We
Don't
just,
do anything while we do is
change.
change from Orofino to Pierce. So we go to the youth academy 3 times versus the elementary or the junior senior high school.
so the November meeting just becomes at the Youth Challenge Academy.
Yep. So they get 3 versus the Orofino Junior Senior High School.
And why can't they come here?
They can,
Yeah, but
and they have in the past.
But our November meeting is at the Orofino
That's
Junior
what
Senior
that
High, and they
means.
want the early graduation
Yeah.
request in November.
and then Teresa gets one last time coming off the hill. So see, we're trying to work here as a team. We
Thank
gotta-
you.
We gotta come up.
It's
with
not
a-
too bad when it's just one regular meeting, but when
Yeah.
we had a lot of extra meetings this
sure.
year.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I know if we change that location, then that gets 5 on the hill. 7 off, but 2 of them are one's Peck, one's Cavendish.
Yeah.
So we're 5, and 1.
I think that's fine.
Change it. Just that location. Dates all seem good around the holidays and. Around the school schedule, I mean,
They're
So-
always the third Mondays except for,
27, because there's a school holiday the
Right,
week before.
January, February. So we move it out a whole week, not just.
Yep.
to
not a day.
day,
Exactly.
okay.
It works amazing for me
Except I
this year.
guess in February, do we move it up a week?
No, we go out a week also
Mhm.
to the 24th.
Oh, to the 24th. Okay, I'm
Yep.
reading it backwards.
for
Okay.
consistency, otherwise
Yeah,
it'd be decked
that
up
makes sense.
to
Yeah.
a week apart.
So what do we gotta do if we just want to change the location, Jason? Good with the dates?
Yeah, we just change it and then you approve it,
Okay.
like I change
Okay.
it.
Yep.
Approved it. That's what you want.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Ryan, that work
Um,
for you?
Thank you.
The rest of it
Yes.
look good.
Can't do it yet.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm good with the changes.
And thank Russell for Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah, for the ones where we just can't.
Okay, our next agenda item is public comment. Do we have any public comment, Carmen? All right, then we are going to, can I get a motion to move to executive session?
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061 A and B.
I'll second that.
Carmen?
Trustee Saint Germain,
Yes.
trustee Craig,
Yes.
trustee Daniels.
Yes.
Trustee Kepke.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back.
Do we need our laptops?
join us?
I'm here.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Are we back?
We are back. Back from executive session. And we do have an action item from executive. If I could have a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we remove the interim title from Jason Hunter as the interim superintendent. Make him our superintendent currently for Joint School District 171 and move forward with contract negotiations as appropriate.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Carmen's roll call, isn't it?
Trustee Saint Germain,
Yes.
trustee Craig,
Yes.
trustee Daniels,
Yes.
trustee Kepke,
Yes.
trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Welcome.
Lord,
Thank
you.
for real now.
Thanks for
Okay.
the confidence.
Okay, so moving on to action items, the IDYCA early graduation request. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the early graduation request list that was presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just like Jim or the guys here next time.
I will make sure that happens.
Perfect.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. New hires and separations.
I will make a motion that we accept the new hires and separations as presented.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Glad to see some of these retired teachers coming back to sub.
I know, I was surprised at
Mhm.
Robin. I was shocked. It was like
Rob-
right up.
Edna, Robin, Miss Updahl.
It's
great.
Yeah.
I need a-
I wondered, there must not be a time frame that they have to wait before they come back. Okay.
That's why they're all, they got like
Okay,
6 months.
now
and
they've got their time. Okay, yeah.
They
All right.
realize the kids are better than their husbands. My mom will be soon, I'm sure.
Hold on.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Supplemental contracts, and this was for the advanced
Yeah, just-
advanced learning.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. A motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the supplemental contract as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? I'm just thrilled we have that accelerated learning
Oh,
program
good to have that back.
offering. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Policy approvals for the second and third reads. Third read as amended. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the November policy approval as presented and the December policy approval with the second read amended, correct?
There's two different action items. You need to do. them
Yeah, there's
separate.
June separate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
I'm sorry. I
so
see that.
the November policy would be the December second and third reads. Why do we have this like this?
Yeah, it's confusing.
Shouldn't it be
'cause it's
just-
all under one?
Because shouldn't it be just December?
Yeah, because the others were second
They-
and or third reads.
Right, we had second and third read and then first reads, which would
Um,
not be acted on.
I think it's because in November, because there wasn't as many people, didn't we not vote on any policies and we just continued it to, we took no action
right.
for November.
Yeah.
And so we carried the November second
Okay.
reads to this month as the second
Yes,
read, I
that's-
believe
So
is
it
why.
two emotions.
That is
Two
right.
emotions.
So I'd like to amend my motion
Right on.
to accept the December, oh gosh, policy.
The November
So what
policy.
were the
No,
November?
we gotta- Okay, I'll make an amendment.
Mhm.
We're gonna accept the November policy reviews as presented.
Yeah, I'll second that one. And then we'll go to December.
November 2nd. Quite a few. Looks like would be.
Most of them, I think we were holding off on because until the laws were.
So 5401, we were gonna stay with our own. 2340.
So I think that
Oh, that's the sex education one. That was the one with the potential got ya on future funding.
All these are gonna
Sex education.
optional, right?
All these so far, first,
Not 3281.
except for the one that says stay with our own, so 2340F.
And then 3280.
2340, 2415. Those were all to be approved. Not the one that says no and hold off until law.
So can we amend, Brian, have you amended your motion yet?
I did.
His motion works for
Yeah,
what
for
is
November.
proposed.
As long as we're good with these.
The amendment works because we're only approving what was presented from November.
No, we want to,
We had 2 policies in November that were approved.
we
and
want
one
to
that
remove,
not.
we have 3. We have 3.
That's how it was presented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So we're not. Okay.
No, as long as we hold off on this one and that's how it's presented, stay with our own on that one. We should be good.
Okay. Had we had a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay. So we're not out of turn.
Nope.
All right. So all those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we're on to this.
Okay.
Now we're on to the December.
December policy approval.
And then I'll make a motion that we approve the December policy approval with the amendment to policy 2650 that we talked about as presented.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, last one, board meeting dates and locations.
So I'll make a
Changes reflect-
motion that we approve the board meeting dates and locations as presented with the exception of the November meeting and moving that one to IDYCA to accommodate early graduation requests.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Thank you, Brian. Okay. Do we have any input for future agenda items? Do we have a work session scheduled for January?
Hold up. We just moved.
It's in that same
No,
doc-
it's February.
Same document.
So
Okay.
January is just a meeting. And it's the 27th.
Could we add
Nope.
short work session in January for board protocol?
I thought we were going to do that through Google
Yeah,
Docs.
we're just gonna do it.
And then have a discussion?
I think we,
I'd rather have a little bit of discussion in the work session of the alignment and then have an action to adopt it on the agenda.
can we just put that on the agenda though? And then,
If you want to take the time.
I don't think it's gonna be a long one.
Okay.
That'd be a good one, I think, to be out in front too.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think we just put that on the agenda for January's agenda.
And we'll have a recommendation.
I got kicked out for a minute. Russ cut me off. I missed that. I missed the last minute and a half.
He does have his hands on the keyboard.
Russ was like,
Uh,
he's gone.
I was suggesting that perhaps we have a short work session before the meeting in January focused on the protocol work. But it's not perceived as favorable, and adding it to the agenda as a discussion action item.
Which one?
I'm-
Having the work session before or adding it to the?
Not, yeah.
Yeah, which do you prefer?
Which do you prefer?
I don't see any reason why we couldn't have it as a discussion item as a board in front of everybody.
Me too.
Okay.
And obviously we'll do some Google Docs before that to get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jason, did you have a copy of those standards from ISBA?
I do.
Yeah, we just got
And
them.
you can, okay, I haven't checked my email since I'm on this. So yeah, I think it gives us some good study work to do and have some good discussion.
Perfect. So we'll add that. What else do we need to put in January?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I think we're good then, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, guys. Drive safe.
Let's see, Brian.
Good night, Brian.
Yeah.
Hopefully the logs are out of the road.
Yeah.
Are they? We're good to go? We
Is he all right?